Hi, my name is Benjamin Katz, and on today's entry to the Great American Zig-Zag, I'll be biking about 50 miles down the Dawkins Line Recreational Trail. This is a mixed-use path for horses, bikes, walkers, and other pedestrian means of transit. And, it's a lovely day, about 65 degrees outside, and it's going to be a fun bike ride. It's going to be uphill 25 miles and then downhill 25 miles. So I'll keep you all updated on how I'm doing, but it should be a fairly simple, paved, smooth ride. Alright, so I've been biking for about 5 miles now and jamming out the album Godfather by Ned's Atomic Dustbin. Great biking album, by the way. And I have learned two things about this path. The first of which is that it's going to be an absolute blast to bomb down when I'm going the downhill part. Because I have been in gear 2 out of 3 this entire time on my front gears. And that means that I'm not really going that fast. Only about 12 miles an hour on average. But the second thing I've realized about this path is that it's absolutely beautiful and also riddled with horse manure. That, I think, is one of the downsides of having horses on a multi-use path, but it's, easy enough to avoid, so I'm not going to complain, because otherwise this path is astonishingly beautiful, extremely smooth, and well maintained. I have been very much enjoying this ride so far, and I don't see that stopping anytime soon. Alright, so I'm not dying of being tired yet. I'm about 9 miles in. But how do freight trains do it? Pull tens of thousands of tons up a mountain. Oh my god, I can barely pull myself up this mountain. And I'm not really out of shape. I just don't really bike uphill that often. It's more on flatlands. Oh man, or in shorter distances. I have been biking uphill for the last 10 miles. And it's like, I don't have any momentum. It's just pushing and pushing. But it makes me very confident the ride back down is going to be fun and relaxing. And maybe a bit cold. I may have underdressed a little bit. I'm not gonna lie, that tunnel was spooky. The temperature dropped by 20 degrees on the spot. It went essentially pitch black with my sunglasses on. Thankfully the trail was smooth and there was no issues, because that was a bit scary to ride down, I'm not gonna lie. Very cool. Very cool. Scary. Okay, so the next thing I have to say is neither an attack nor a judgment. Simply a question, which is, why have an American flag on your property in the most rural parts of Kentucky, right? I understand in a tourist destination or a big city or in a government building where, if someone from out of the country is visiting, they'll be like, oh yeah, this is the United States. But we're so clearly in the United States. If a tourist from another country is coming here, they'll know they're in the United States, so they'll have to have flown in to a United States airport where there are justifiably American flags. What is the purpose of hanging an American flag in the middle of nowhere where only other United States citizens will see? I'm curious. And now, 22.5 miles later, I had made it to Tip Top Tunnel, which is currently entirely closed for people to go through. Not to mention the fact that the path leading up to Tip Top Tunnel was a half mile of unpaved gravel. And I think this highlights my main concern with most bike routes in the United States, is that they just sort of end, going really nowhere and existing only as a small segment on a ride that, once you start, wish it could be much longer. I will only be able to ride 45 miles today, as that is the length of the rideable path known to me, and I wish there was more. This was such a lovely and pleasant bike ride with a path that was clean and smooth. I lament the fact that this path does not go further, though I do appreciate that it exists. Okay, my mood was instantly less sour the moment I started bombing down this mountain. I am maxed out gear, going over 20 miles an hour. This is pretty sick, I'm not gonna lie. Well worth the ascent. And well worth seeing that cool tunnel. I feel like I didn't convey properly, but that tunnel seemed to go on forever. The infinite darkness sort of expanding beyond the eye's reach. It was profoundly beautiful. And also fragile, because you could see the rocks are being held up by a nailed-in-place mesh. Bolts, the only reason that tunnel had not collapsed entropy. Very cool. Very happy with this ride, even if I'm only going to get 45 miles instead of 50. So now that I have a bit of time to reflect as I ride downhill and don't have to spend all my energy pedaling, I'm seeing a lot of these homes in this backcountry connected by, they are connected by power. But these power lines are running through the forest in highly unpredictable situations and contexts where at any given moment a storm could just knock out power for everyone down the chain. I'm sure the utilities have contingencies for reconnecting those power lines and getting these homes back in line, but I really can't help but think of how much more reliable electric service could be if all these homes had solar panels on them. They all have great access to the sun, right? A lot of these houses that I'm seeing have no trees around them, and the mountains would only be blocking the sun during the morning and the evening, where the solar power is going to be less effective anyway. For peak solar generation times, all the houses that I'm seeing either had the full house that has perfect solar access, or like a large shed that could also be great to put some panels on. Now, I lament the fact that it's still such an expensive technology unnecessarily, because even though the panel costs have come down, the contractors who are actually installing the solar haven't been fully gotten up to speed yet, and the pricing and the estimates are still way too high. I wish there was a way to expedite this, maybe some kind of, government grant for rural homeowners to get certified in installing their own panels so they don't have to go to a third party, or a manufacturer deal that would cover part of the installation for a couple of years of capacity generation fed back into the grid. Either way, I think that it'd be so simple, not necessarily easy, but it'd be so simple to get all of these homes with their own solar installations and their own backup power generation possibilities and capabilities. At a certain point, you wouldn't even need the transmission lines anymore. Like if the utility paid for everyone to get solar, they would then no longer need to do upkeep on any of these transmission lines, which I'm sure gets expensive over time, with contractors on retainer finding the actual outages and these hills with no reception or waypoints. I don't know. I think solar could be a really good option for improving the reliability of access to power generation in these rural communities. Okay, I've decided to say bump it to the idea of 45 miles. I'm going to go the full 50, but only because 2.5 miles after my car, there is fried chicken in Kentucky. I feel like I have to get fried chicken in Kentucky because the whole, Kentucky Fried Chicken global chain. I don't know. I'm not going to get, KFC. But if KFC has done anything for the reputation of Kentucky, is that they make delicious fried chicken. We'll see if that holds up. Alright, I'm happy I decided to go for chicken because I have arrived at the end of the trail. That's all it is, and then just go straight into traffic. I can't say I love how this is how trails terminate, with no real warning and no real place to go after. But, I'm really glad this trail exists. It's a full 20-30 miles of smooth, paved road just for bikes and horses. I'm happy with the ride I've done. I'm very much looking forward to the chicken. I do wish it could be integrated into communities a bit better, though. Maybe even a bike lane in the road ahead. Yeah, this is a prime example of non-sustainable infrastructure for bikes, because the only way for me to get to Paintsville is on this 45-mile-an-hour road with no bike lanes and cars that really do not want me here. So I would love to see a connection from the wonderful trail I just rode to Paintsville downtown. Alright, so I decided on the restaurant Taste of Amish. I'm getting a farmer fried chicken sandwich with cornbread, so should be good. I'll report back. Okay, so sometimes the simplest thing is like the Baps. Look at this. Just, looks like a vibe. Alright, so it's not fried chicken in the traditional sense. I'll still need to get some actual fried chicken, but this is delicious. A very well-made sandwich. With simple, good ingredients. And the cornbread is good, too. I'm a fan of that. Money well spent. Alright, 55 miles later, the bike ride is over. Robin is kicking it. Ready to get back in my car. I'm actually pretty cold. The sun is not yet down, but on the bike back, there was no more sun on my skin, so it got pretty chilly, but luckily I layered up before I went to get food. Overall, it was a good day, a good bike ride. I think I solidified a lot of the sort of notions that I have about wanting bike routes to actually go somewhere. If a bike ride is just, a leisure path, it doesn't really contribute more. It simply is a place to walk or bike along for exercise or for getting into nature's sake. It's not treated as a proper means of transit if it's not actually connecting real people to real things. So, while I would love this bike route to connect from natural city to city, I am happy that it exists, and this was a lovely bike ride on the time that I was on the trail. And while I didn't get the Kentucky Fried Chicken I was looking for, I still did get a lovely meal with a homemade feel and a down-home vibe. So, this will end it for today. I look forward to seeing y'all in tomorrow's entry. Bye-bye.